Welcome to the Warrior Freedom Service Dogs podcast, where we bring you real stories of impact, transformation, and the power of service dogs in veterans' lives. Today I have the honor of sitting down with the man who started it all, Adam Keith, the founder or co-founder of Warrior Freedom Service Dogs and proud owner of Keith's Ace Hardware in Flintstone, Georgia and Dalton, Georgia. When we talk about purpose-driven leadership, Adam is the definition. He saw a need, stepped up, and laid the foundation for what has become a life-saving mission for veterans with PTS and TBI. We'll hear how it all began, how a hardware store became part of the story, and what he sees for the future. Adam, let's start from the beginning. I know you've shared this story many times, but for our listeners, what inspired you to start Warrior Freedom, or at the time, Operation Freedom Dogs?
Yeah, thank you for having me too.
Yeah.
Well, back then, it was 2014 when I met Matt, who came in the hardware store. And whenever I was working, I thought he was there stealing, to be honest. I mean, he was pale white. He had big black circles under his eyes, and he just looked like he was, drugged up and just looked sketchy. And so he had a question about a weed trimmer or something. Anyway, I was out there helping him, and a guy that we both knew from church walked in and introduced us to each other, and told a little bit about who we were to each other. And he said, "Matt, this is the guy I was telling you that trains dogs." And so I had been training retrievers for by that, I guess at that point, maybe 12 to 14, 15 years at that point. And so I was kind of curious as to why this was a subject. And he said Matt was a veteran and just got out of rehab, had just gotten home from Florida. He was there for a month, but he had 2 tours in Iraq and struggled with PTSD. And, these are words that I knew vaguely. I didn't have a clue what they meant. I just knew they were a thing. And, but why he needed help with a dog, it's just, I don't know. But he said, yeah, I was looking into getting one. A guy in rehab told me they were helping veterans and with PTSD. And I was like, well, I don't have a clue about German Shepherds. That's what he was asking me about. And I was like, but I've got a litter of lab puppies that are able to go home like in 2 days. They were 7 or 8 weeks old. And I said, they're always sold, but I've got one that I just found out the people are going to pass on this litter, and I've got it available. And which was very rare. We were very fortunate when we used to breed and all that. They were always sold well before the litter was born. And so to have that puppy was a wild thing. And then for him to walk in that moment, I was like, it's yours if you're interested. And so he took me up on that. He came the next day and to get the dog, and we spent the whole afternoon together. And I didn't know him from anybody else, but he was just you could tell he was starting life over. Mm-hmm. He was he'd gotten home from rehab, and his mom, I remember him telling me his mom gave him a new phone and phone number and said, okay, you're ditching the old crowd you ran with before. It's starting over. And he was, and it was amazing to see that. But then to hear him, he was very easy to talk to and easy to share just his world and what he had been through. And I just soaked it up like a sponge. But I was just floored. I mean, I told him, I jokingly have always said that I couldn't get past the idea of like getting on a bus to go to a deployment for a year and hug my kids and wife and get on that bus, or that plane. And, so I just tried to, think about all the things that I could around the things he was telling me. And but it was really when he started to share. I gave him the puppy, and the first night it woke him up from a nightmare. Yeah. Like an 8-week-old puppy is like waking somebody up from a nightmare. You're like, that's coincidence, And there's so it wasn't until we heard that story numerous times, that you're like, okay, this is not coincidence. And so, but yeah, he had a lot of friends in the military that were struggling, and that just started a journey of asking a lot more questions and wanting to know, more about this.
Yeah.
So,
what was the first year like starting from scratch?
Oh man. Well, the first year, really the first 2 years, because it was a lot of research. The more veterans I met through Matt, the more I learned about just post-traumatic stress and the body and what's going on with the brain and why. And we would take some classes online that were really informative that helped Matt too. It really validated Matt. Like he realized he wasn't crazy.
Right.
He had a real injury, you know? And I think for me, that always stood out that so many veterans come home as I was meeting them and like, they need to know that they're not broken. They have an injury just like you broke a leg. But oftentimes if we don't see it, you know how our brain is just,
Yeah.
you know, it just works us over and it tries to get us to be alone and isolate us. And so the first 2 years were research, a lot of research, just to know what we were dealing with. And the last thing I wanted to do was make it worse. And I was already, you know, my wife had a lot of health issues and a lot of surgeries over that same time period. And we had 3 hardware stores, 2 young kids. I mean, we had a dog kennel, so we boarded and trained dogs, and it was just, life was already too busy. And the last thing I knew I could do was take on training a dog to be a service dog and figuring that from scratch, which I had never done. And so I knew we had to figure out a way to do this as a community, you know, with other people. And my hope was always to figure out how to do it that's sustainable, you know, because you can go help 2 or 3 people right now, and that makes a difference. But how could we do this in a way that continues to help, you know, veterans? So that was my mindset going forward. And we just had some great people who came along too, just that challenged us and helped us, and a lot of networking, you know. So the first 2 years were a lot of research and then networking. And so it was exciting, I think, in the first couple of years. It wasn't as hard as it was exciting. And, you know, looking back now, you know, when you get excited about something new, you focus on it and you don't focus on other stuff. So, yeah, it was good. The first 2 years were very exciting, just new stuff.
Yeah. How did you go from dogs in a backyard to a full nonprofit?
Oh man, that's a whole nother set of years, isn't it? Yeah, at the time I just quit training dogs right before I met Matt because it was just too time consuming and I couldn't give it the time it was due. But we would still board dogs, or maybe we had just stopped boarding dogs too. I can't remember. But so we were getting back into it. We really didn't house the dogs back then. We would just try to get a dog, make sure it was healthy, that we could tell, and then partner it with a veteran and train the 2, you know. But a lot of that fell on the veteran, which is more than, looking back, that was, you know, I would do it again because we had no other options. But I think it was just too much on the veteran to already be struggling. And here's a raw dog that has to be trained from scratch. You know, that's a lot. So, yeah, to go to the nonprofit side was a huge learning curve. You know, it was just trial by fire. I learned a lot quick, but it was hard. Looking back, I think the hardest things I've always thought about was the dog part, which is the only thing I had a clue to. I wasn't doing it. By that point we had had the Chattanooga Obedience Club helping, and they have volunteer trainers who were helping train, and we could do it in group form. So I was doing all the other stuff. And most people don't know, that haven't been on that side of a nonprofit, is, you know, there's usually what the nonprofit does per se is 30 or 40% of the time, maybe. And the rest of the time is like a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And as you well know, so, I mean, that's kind of what I was doing, and just figuring out how to keep it all going and what was next and where it was headed. So, yeah, it was definitely a journey. And I think the hardest thing for me was that I had been in business, but you know, what was Operation Freedom Dogs then, it was like a church to me because it was all volunteers trying to help other people who needed help. And so it was very touching and moving and motivating, but you're just thankful people came to help and be part of it, you know? So, but I didn't ever, you know, I never looked at it like it was my business, or I didn't manage it like it was a business. And really a nonprofit is no different than a for-profit when it comes to the, you know, management of it all and accountability and all that kind of stuff. So, but we were taking, you know, a penny and cutting it 20 different ways to pay for stuff. And a lot of the volunteers would pay for stuff as they went, you know, just out of their own pocket. So it was really a very generous time. Just everybody involved was just, their pocket and their heart was all in because they were seeing the difference.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I know you talked about Matt, but is there a veteran from those early days who stands out in your memory, someone who really showed you the power of this work?
Oh yeah, Dave. I mean, there's a lot of great memories of a lot of the veterans, but Dave was one that when I first met him, he would come to some of our first group stuff, and he would just, looking back, it was funny because, I mean, he was on the struggle bus. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people are, but he was just struggling. He had his 2 kids he was trying to raise by himself.
Wow. He
He was fully disabled and trying to raise 2 kids, just trying to get through life and figure this out. And so he could really well, he was really good at verbalizing just where he was at and how he was feeling. And he didn't hide anything. So if something was not good, he would tell you, and I always loved just doing that with him, Matt as well, but with Dave as well. And then also in that was group 1, group 2. Really at group 1, also there was a guy who worked at TBA, and I had lunch with him one day, and he just seemed to kind of have everything together. He had kids. I mean, he had a great job. He just was holding it all together. And but when I asked him, how does he do this? How does he go through this life? How does he go to work every day and park downtown and deal with all this? And he just looked at me like very seriously for the first time. He kind of looked up at lunch. He looked up at me and he just said, for my family, they have sacrificed everything for me. And, so I'll do whatever I have to for them. And so I think it was a lot of moments like that stood out to me. And then the second group, we had a veteran named Bobby who was quiet but super nice, seemed very well put together, always on time or early, just was squared away. And about a month in, he took his life. And I'd been told when we first started researching all this by a counselor who said, listen, with this population, you're going to deal with suicide at some point. I thought, okay, well, but I never thought for 1 second that would happen that fast.
Yeah.
And so I think we dealt with so much so fast. We were learning at a tremendous pace. But it just is a testament to the people and the hearts that were involved. The fact that it's still here is amazing. And this was in the pandemic. Like, we started raising money at the end of 2019 to hire our first staff members at 2020.
Yeah, don't remind me of the pandemic.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. So you've run Ace Hardware in Flintstone for years. How did that world intersect with Warrior Freedom?
Good question. Well, I'm a 3rd generation. So my grandfather started in 1948, and my parents bought the business in 1990. And then we bought it from them about 16 years ago now, I guess. Just watching the adults in my life serve others. I watched my parents do that tirelessly. I'd watch my dad do for other people in the community when no one else ever knew. No one else ever knew. He would close the store up at night, and then after working 10, 12 hours, and then go to some widow's house and take care of some plumbing issue, or just, I saw that all the time. Mm-hmm. He would open the store up at night after we were closed, or people would knock on our door middle of the night in the wintertime because pipes had burst. And it was all about other people. Life was about taking care of other people. So I think that just kind of gets in you. A lot of ACE people, a lot of ACEs are like that. Just the people in it are just awesome. So I think my life was kind of centered towards that. And so, there's a million ironic pieces here that are not, to me, they're all part of God's work. But just before meeting Matt, I had got really intrigued in watching military documentaries, like in war zones.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, that's when I was thinking, man, I can't imagine. Like, I would try to put myself in those shoes, and I was just like blown away. And so I think all that was kind of setting the course for what was about to happen. So it already had me kind of like willing to go figure out anything to help these veterans when they come home. And Yeah. So I think, the hardware store, just the nature of the beast, the nature
Yeah.
of what your local hardware store people usually are, hopefully. I don't know about the big boxes, but especially your small town hardware stores are just, community driven and outward focused, hopefully. And it all lined up.
Yeah. What does it mean to you when customers or community members step up to support the cause?
I felt a range of emotions over the time because that was my biggest learning curve I'm used to jumping in to help others, not asking for help. And so I think learning to fundraise, you realize how prideful you are. You're not, I just knew that I wasn't willing to ask other people to help me.
Yeah.
And for a long time, it felt like I was asking people to help me more than the mission. That's how it felt in my head. And once I wrapped my head around I wasn't doing that, it kind of changed everything. But seeing the community and how generous they are, one, it didn't surprise me because of what we're doing. I mean, I used to joke that, man, if I fail at raising support for this, like I'm bad because we got young people, we have veterans, we got dogs, and we got the whole thing. So when I would see a lot of community members jump in to help, I feel like I was just one of them. I just happened to be the guy that had a chance to be in the beginning of it. But overall, I would have jumped on this too if I hadn't known. And but there was the people I would meet that would give at a high level, though. That blew me away. Just their generosity and humility, and they wanted no recognition. And that's the people that put this whole thing on the map in the beginning, was just some major donors who just were used to doing life like that. And I was never around that to that level. And so it's very eye-opening to think that a lot of our nonprofits in the world are funded by people who are just wildly generous. Some even give more away than they keep themselves. And so the generosity of the world that makes it go around is pretty special. So
Yeah. How do you see small businesses helping transform lives through services like this?
there's a lot of ways. I mean, one is just taking notice for one. As a business person, you're thinking about your marketing and your branding and getting yourself out there to have the business to begin with, right? So, but I think when you align yourself with missions that are actually important to you as the business owner, that's when you can get your heart behind it, because not everybody's going to get behind dogs and veterans. Maybe their thing is I mean, gosh, Ace Hardware corporately works with the Children's Miracle Network, and I mean, it's hard to not get behind that too. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that people, I think God makes us all independently or equally, but just unique. We have our own things that we care about. And when you can care about something that really hits home, you're excited to give and be part of it. And I think a lot of businesses, it's hard to not get caught up in your own world of trying to be the best business person you can be or the next business step. But I think businesses are, it's a lifeblood of a community, but it should be bigger. So people that are in business should be outwardly focused as well. And, we say at the store that a profit in the business is not why we exist, but it's like blood in the body. Blood is not why we exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just part of what keeps us alive. And that's how a profit is in the business. Like, we have to be profitable, we have to do things well, but overall, we exist for the greater good of our community and how to help others. And I firmly believe we're only here on this earth to impact others and lift them up and walk through this together.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big part, that if all businesses did that, it'd be a massive game changer. And there's a lot that do, but there's a lot we could do more than what we're doing now.
Yeah. I like that. So what would you say to other business owners listening who want to make a difference but don't know where to start?
Yeah, I think if I was in that spot, I would think about things that kind of strike me that could use help, or I would think about things like assets I may have that would help. It might help another nonprofit. I mean, it might be the platform they have. Maybe they can get the word out for people. there's a whole bucket of things that businesses have that could be unique to different nonprofits. But overall, I think, it's not just money, it's knowledge, it's time, it's heart, it's effort. Yeah, I could probably go on that for a while to answer that one.
Yeah.
But
it's time, it's energy, it's resources. It's not always financial. We've had so many wonderful businesses helping us. Mark, who's actually helping us with our podcast, owns a business. And he's donating his time and resources to help us out. So, it's amazing what the community, business owners and businesses alike can, really help nonprofits flourish. And there's just so many different ways. So,
yeah. I think one thing I wanted to add was that if I were starting and wanted to get engaged somewhere, I would look at I would check an organization out, because some organizations are very well funded. Some there's not a lot of accountability. And I'm not pointing out any particular ones. It's just, there's a lot of nonprofits, especially in Chattanooga.
Oh yeah.
And so, I'd look for organizations that I could make a difference in, and I could move the needle. And I think Warrior Freedom's that kind of organization where we have a crystal clear track record financially. The programs never skipped a beat. Even when things were tight and lean and we had no money, it's still trucked on.
Yeah.
Lives were still changed. And it's not just a pet going to a person. This is like a very highly trained dog and a tool that will absolutely change that veteran's life and their family, thus the community. So I think that looking for an organization that you can support that is doing the work they say they're doing, and they have all the proof that they are doing it, that's key. I don't think there's nearly as many nonprofits and it's sustainable. There's a lot of great big-hearted people out there that are trying to do things, but it's not sustainable. And even in the dog world, there's people that are trying to do that, and it's just not, they don't have the means or the ability to know how to, it takes a whole village, right? It takes like a great board, it takes a great staff, it takes a lot of great volunteers, all working in harmony to do stuff. And I think that's what Warrior Freedom has. So,
yeah.
So
time for a little rapid fire.
Yeah.
So just say the first thing that comes to mind. Favorite tool in the hardware store?
A hammer.
Hammer.
You can do a lot with that.
One movie you can quote from start to finish.
Oh, Smokey and the Bandit, no question. I can start now if you want me to.
No, I don't think we have time for that. But favorite way to unwind after a long day?
My daughter's in the room. Ella's over here. She could probably answer that better than I can. Probably watching a tractor drive across the screen on YouTube or something. I don't know. Usually for me, it's driving a machine of some kind, a tractor or something. Like to be out there doing something kind of mindless that I can just do, and unwind.
One thing people might be surprised to learn about you.
Well, yeah, I think what's odd is that I have a lot of lives. Like I have a world of people I've met and know through Warrior Freedom. Then I have a whole different world of hardware associated people, and community, and then a church family that's another 15 minutes away that aren't, a lot of this is not tied together, in some way. So a lot of people may not know I do hardware. They don't know I did Warrior Freedom.
Really?
Or
wow.
With the dog stuff, I trained dogs for so long, and I don't know how many people know all that together. So
interesting. I would just assume everyone would know.
Yeah, you'd think so. You would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never knew how, when we started with Warrior Freedom, I never knew how to, I wanted the community of Flintstone to know what was going on in their backyard. Mm-hmm. One, I was proud of it, but mainly because I wanted other people to have that opportunity to be in on it too, right? I didn't want it wasn't just my thing. So, but I never knew how to do it in a way that would not seem like I was boasting through the business to, hey, look at what we're doing, so I didn't do anything. I didn't have signs up I had a pamphlet at the checkout. That's how Wayne found it. And
right.
So yeah, I don't think all the lives never crossed a lot, because of that. So
interesting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
Adam, before we wrap up, what's one message you want to leave with our listeners about warrior freedom and the power of this mission?
What's one?
Yeah. One.
One. Just
One
that's all you're going
singular.
to give me. One.
You can say a few things, but yeah.
Well, I've thought of several. Like I've thought of generosity. I've thought of a lot of different words, but I think the biggest one is putting yourself in others' shoes. I think even when I find myself frustrated with a different situation here or there in life, when you put yourself in the other shoes and really think about it, not just a little bit, but really think about it and visualize it, it changes everything. You know, we all suffer in different ways. We're all struggling. Every human is struggling, and half of us or 3/4 of us try to put a front on like we're not.
Yeah.
And I think that was what always kept me engaged so heavily. It wasn't just that I was thankful for veterans and what they did. I was, but it was the human aspect to watch somebody suffer and feel like you have some kind of a little bit of an antidote that would help. And because we all do, right? I mean, it's a kind word.
Yeah.
It's walking in the gas station and paying and saying something kind, genuinely. It's giving life away. I think I don't know where I've heard it, but every encounter is never neutral. Either you give life or you take it away. And I think to give life to people, to lift them up, you're never going to be perfect, but I think just to be putting yourself in other shoes and trying to care for your neighbor, whether it's a veteran or it's just a neighbor. Yeah. I think we're not here to judge and ask questions. It's just how do we help others along? That's probably my biggest one.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Adam, for your vision, your leadership, and for never giving up on veterans.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
To our listeners, if Adam's story inspired you, visit warriorfreedom.org to donate, volunteer, or become a partner. And don't forget our 10-year anniversary Restoring Freedom Dinner Gala is coming up on October 23rd at the Signal. And we're still looking for sponsors and supporters like you. Next time, we will be talking to Joseph Petty, a graduate and mentor in our program. Until then, stay free, stay strong, and stay connected.
This is the place where strength begins, where hope returns and trust